The Woodcock-Johnson test is a valid and reliable assessment tool of both cognitive abilities and achievement among children and adults. The Woodcock-Johnson is a norm reference test, meaning that the test compares the student's score against the scores of a group of people who have already taken the test called the norming group. The Woodcock-Johnson proves to be a valuable diagnostic tool to be used to identify exceptional children, including high-incidence disabilities like head injury, ADHD, visual impairment, and autism. Also, gifted students, including those with learning disabilities. It has also been found that higher education students benefit from Woodcock-Johnson tests. There are two versions of the test, Test A and Test B. A has tests 1 through 12 and B has 13 through 22. Examples of the titles of the test are letter word recognition, reading and math fluency, spelling, story recall, sound awareness, writing samples, and passage comprehension. Before administering the test, the student personal information can be filled out on the booklet. Also, ensure that the room is quiet. You are sitting side by side with the student, so the student would sit right here, so that you have the ability to point and to point out the directions. You do not want to sit across from the student. Help the student feel comfortable by telling them before the test starts to just do the best you can, and breaks are totally okay as long as it's not during a timed assessment part. The Woodcock-Johnson can be spread out over a few days if needed. Start with their grade level or the level that you believe they are at as their teacher. Start with the item and page number. Ensure that both you and the student are on the same page. So for an example, I'm starting at Test 6, and this is Math Fluency, and this is the student's handbook. Also, you would see on mine that mine matches. And up in the corner, you see a clock. And the clock signifies that this is a timed part. We have 3 minutes. Make sure you read the instructions to yourself and out loud to the student if they are colored in blue. So you'd see right here, here's the blue instructions. So I would read these aloud. And I want you to work through some simple arithmetic problems. Start here. Continue until you finish the page. And I would go on continuing to read the instructions in blue. To determine the basal, the student must get 6 in a row right. If the student does not get 6 in a row right to begin with, finish what's on the page. Don't stop the student in the middle, let them finish, and go back to the previous section above until you have established your basal, which is 6 in a row right. So Math Fluency does not have a basal because they're able to do as many as they can correct. But you'd see over here in calculation that they're broken up into sets. So if they don't get 6 in a row right, just simply continue up until you've gotten 6 in a row right. The ceiling is self-explanatory. It's where the top is. So the ceiling is where students get 6 in a row wrong, and this would be where you stop the test. Tally the student's score after the student leaves, but keep track of what questions they get right and wrong by recording in the scorebook. Use a clipboard so the student does not get anxiety seeing you mark their answers. The student also has a subject response booklet where they record their answers for certain tests. Certain tests are timed, and you can see the time limit in the upper left-hand corner, which I showed earlier. Some tests have have an exact answer key, while others might have rubric in the supplemental textbook. It is important for writing samples that the administrator of the test reads and understands what qualifies as a 2, 1, or 0. For my example for math fluency, I would count the number that the student got correct on each individual test given. Then you can look to the right of the page and see that the number correct has a grade equivalency and an age equivalency. For the example of math fluency, you would see that if the student got 20 correct, their AE is 611, 6 years, 11 months. GE is 1.5, the 5th month of the 1st grade. After the test is administered, there is an observation checklist that covers the student behavior during the test, such as self-confidence, cooperation, and response to difficult tasks. This would be completed right here after the test is administered. Then, software creates a report summarizing results which can be given to the school psychologist to be added to the full report you will use at an initial meeting or a triennial review.